Live, our weekly talk show, talking bench press every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot of great stuff to get through today. I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' questions, shooting the shit, and talking bench. But before I begin, switch it up a little bit. Sip of seltzer for the working man. I already had quite a bit of morning coffee. Figured I'd enjoy a nice seltzer. I like these different flavored seltzers. Every now and then, I'll scoop up some ice, dump in some seltzer, and I'll enjoy it. I'm not a big soda drinker. I love root beer, but I try to stay away from soda when possible. I like seltzer as it doesn't have any calories and it's a nice change of pace every now and then. So, sip of seltzer for the working man today. No coffee, but we got something. Damn good. All right, guys, got a lot of good questions. You can drop your cues down below. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Before I begin, we have a new challenge up in the Better Benching Academy. So, like I said, every month we are going to have a new challenge in the Better Benching Academy. And this month's challenge is called Big Back, Big Bench. And the whole objective here is to really promote huge back growth, more than you probably ever experienced. We're hitting it from all different approaches, all the things that are going to be real important if you want a big bench, what you should be doing in terms of your back training. All right, so we're hitting on all those things in the challenge. Things like you have to hit a 5 rep max on a heavy back row variation. You have to target upper back with a particular movement. You're going to want to hit ISO holds. So I have this whole checklist. It's gonna be a really fun challenge. I'm really excited to start doing that with the team. And then of course we're rolling into some of our springtime challenges, such as our 10K a day challenge, our step challenge. Always better recovery when we can promote more general physical preparedness and better conditioning. So I'm excited for a lot of the great challenges that we have upcoming in the Better Benching Academy. If you'd like to join in, excuse me. If you'd like to join in, go to bigbenches.com/academy and check out everything the BBA has to offer. All right, so let's kick it off with a question that came in from Instagram the other day. Mobility drills for a bigger arch. Okay, what are some drills you should be doing if you want to see positional changes in your bench press? A decreased range of motion. Okay, what I would focus on in that happenstance is not necessarily just trying to shove foam rollers under your lower back and all that shindig. What I would look to do is some very direct and intentful T-spine extension work, T-spine extension drills. This is an area in which I focus heavily on in my bench training and our athletes training. I'm trying to promote better T-spine extension. I'm doing soft tissue work to help that happen. We are also doing a lot of scap work, getting full protraction, getting full retraction, because the more you can retract your scaps back, guess what? The shorter range, bigger arch, however you want to explain it, you're going to have. Okay, so if you want a bigger arch in the bench press and or just decreased range of motion, that's what I would look to do. When it comes to really trying to stay away from having low back pain in the bench press, this is where you want to really establish your arch. You want to establish your arch through the upper back. We're not trying to jam up an arch at the lower back. We need to be thinking reach upper abs, reach chest to the bar to help activate our upper back and try to create as much extension as possible at that particular part of the spine, not necessarily the lower back. Okay. So that's what I would tell you to do. Where to start? Simple YouTube search for T-spine extension drills is a great place to get some ideas. There's no necessarily bad T-spine extension drills. It's just there's a lot of different variants of them out there, and I would play around and find one that really seems to deliver great results for you that you enjoy doing. It's difficult to do, all right, and I would roll with that for some time. I like things like scap wall slides are great. Um, I don't know necessarily because there's a lot of different terms to describe the same drill. Um, but one where you can hold the PVC, get your elbows up on the bench, and then sink your hips back into it. Actually gives you a bit of a lat stretch sometimes too, depending on how tight you are. But yeah, a simple extension rotation based T-spine drill is great too. So I mean, there's a lot out there. Just YouTube, any of those drills, they will all help. All right. Next, best tricep builders for a raw bench press. Okay, so we're primarily talking about a raw bench press here. Um, and if you try to develop your triceps for a raw bench press, it's going to be very similar to how you would do it for an equipped bench press. Okay, because if you're diagnosing that your uh, end range is weak on the bench press, that's exactly the kind of range that we're trying to strengthen as an equipped bencher. All right, it's just more formal there because that's you typically the strength curve's different. So you're gonna train it very similar to how you would equip benching. But something I tend to like to work in a little bit more for raw benchers, one of these exercises I get jazzed up about is a board press, a close grip board press with band tension. That's a doozy if you haven't done it before, especially if you go heavy with it. Forces you to be, you accelerate right off the boards in your weakest range. If you have diagnosed that as your raw bench, that's where you're weak. Um, so I'm a big fan of board press with band tension and or chain tension, but I usually prefer the bands. Um, and anything close grip. I mean, because you're going to want to still work full range as a raw bench presser. So I try to stay away from this real direct uh, partial range movements. So as a raw bench presser, I would really look to just do a lot of your benching, even your pause benching, stuff like that, with a closer grip. I think that would be more conducive if you're talking primarily a raw bench press. Okay. As if you're tuning in, you have any questions, you want to shoot the shit, talk bench press, drop your cues below. We do this every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I appreciate everyone joining in. I imagine you're all subscribers of the channel. If you're not a follower of our Instagram, check out at Big Benches on Instagram. We put up a lot of great stuff there as well. Okay. Do I want to experiment in a band shirt? So, if those of you who are not familiar with this new kind of category of equipped lifting, so they just came out with the unlimited division. Now you'd have single ply, multiply, unlimited. Okay, unlimited is its own division because the shirts that are coming out now are really essentially kind of made of knee wrap material. I'm not sure exactly what it's made of, but it's very, very elastic. Okay, it's very, very elastic. It's much more like a super, super heavy duty slingshot than it is a traditional poly shirt because it is so different. They actually made its own division, which I'm a huge fan of. I think they're awesome. So they're gonna be able to. Someone that's a raw bencher that wants to get into equipped lifting, you're gonna be able to throw on these band shirts, not have to change too much, and have great success in doing that. So it's great to just introduce more people to that form of lifting. But as long as it's its own division, I don't have a problem with it because it is very, very different. Do I ever plan to really get in one of those bandit shirts? I wouldn't rule it out. I'd like to try one. I'd like to do a training cycle in a band shirt and let it rip, see what I can get. From my experience in the ones I have worn, I haven't had a ton of success with them. I am not really, it's not my strong suit. My strong suit is really getting the most and squeezing the most out of technique in the poly shirts, your traditional bench shirt. So I really don't have any um, desire to want to jump into one of these shirts and compete in it. I probably won't for some time. I do want to get some experience under my belt just so I can help others better with that shirt. Because it's one thing if you know kind of what to work on with that type of shirt, but when you're feeling it yourself, you really start to develop the nuances of it. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I have no plan to really compete or anything in those banded shirts, the unlimited division shirts. Adam MC, yo, I have a question regarding my bench. My left side elbow always seems to be lower when I am at the chest, so the bar tilts. So I would first just ask you, my friend, does that happen when the bar comes out of the rack, or is that simply when you're getting down to chest level? That's going to be important to note. If it's something that, I mean, either way, it's really at some point in time something is more restricted on one side, that's essentially causing that. Like you're not retracting as much on one side versus the other. So I would really look to when I'm getting down, not the starts. Yeah, so I would really look at um, where that restriction's occurring. I would look at each side of your body and maybe just do like a banded row and just take note. Can you retract more on one side or the other? That's something that I would go to a PT and ask them about. Be like, I'm getting this tilt when I bench press. Obviously they'll know that one side's more restricted, but they'll be able to delve into that to a deeper level and help you with whatever soft tissue they recommend or exercises to work on that. But it will be a work in progress. It's not going to be a quick fix. Something you could do, which if you had the problem at the start, I would tell you just come out with a finger. Um, you could still try that now. You could just come out a finger's length. So the side that it is not dipping down, you would just come out a little bit wider, and that should help even things up a bit. I would see how that feels. Um, but other than that, I would seriously just go to PT, let them know what's up, do a session, see what they say, and then it's gonna be a lot of just working on whatever drills on your own, because it takes a while to get into a certain state, and it takes a while to get yourself back into balance. So you do have to put in the work there. So I hope that helps, my friend. But I don't have anything too direct for you. But that would be my general recommendation. Yeah, my friend. Wilson, hello. I just want to say I'm on the second week of your 6 weeks program, and by applying the advices of your videos, my bench is getting stronger and faster than I imagined. That's awesome, my friend. I really appreciate you tuning in and reaching out. That's great to hear. Love hearing that stuff. Yeah, the 6 week bench program is one that I put a lot of effort into creating. We've done a lot of different challenges and stuff with that program, and yeah, I'm really pleased with the results that people have gotten with that. So if you want to check out the 6 week bench program, go to bigbenches.com, go to our store page, it'll be up in there. But I really do appreciate that feedback, my friend. That's great to hear. That's awesome. So keep it up. Hope it keeps rolling for you. And the thing too is that program, you just kind of recycle through. If it continues to work for you, just keep recycling through it. See what you can squeeze it for. We got another question about how to keep the hips down when you bench press. Now, this one really comes down to two things. First, you really have to have the correct hip tension. So, usually, someone who is having trouble with their butt coming up, they're not creating the right hip tension. Okay, and they're not tight in their hips at all. Therefore, they're really just kind of pushing down into the floor, bridging up their hips. There's no tightness there. The other big thing is that you need to be applying your leg drive in the right direction. Kind of what I just mentioned. You don't want to be glute bridging up. You want to be pushing back on the pad, like you're trying to slide yourself off. All right, that's what having good traction on the pad is there for. Okay, so you don't slide, so that you can create leg drive like that. So it simply comes down to really cueing that knees out type cue when you're set up on the bench to get the proper hip tension, squeeze your glutes. Because if you think knees out, it's going to lock your hips into place. You're not going to be able to as readily just push your hips up like that. You really want to think knees out more than anything, and then push back. As if there's a wall extending in front of the bench press, you have your feet up against the wall and are pushing away. Try to think of it in that capacity. Or that you're trying to actually push the bench unit back to the back wall. Okay, that'll help tremendously with keeping the hips down. Also, little pro tip when you do get into a meet, especially if you focus on your bench press, if you wear a very loose or baggy singlet, it makes it harder to judge. So that's just a little tip, a little pro tip for you guys. Instead of wearing super tight singlet that sticks right to you, wear one that is just slightly bit more baggy, and that will make it a little bit harder to judge if you have this problem time and time again. Um, that's not going to solve your problem, but it's a little pro tip of how to try to squeeze out that little bit in the meat. Want a sip of coffee, or I'm sorry, sip of seltzer. We got seltzer today, guys. I've used to seeing the coffee. I went with a little raspberry something seltzer today, so sip of seltzer to you. Damn good. Love that carbonation. All right, let's talk some bench press. Drop your cues. Taking cues. All right, we got what extra shoulder accessories do you recommend in the 3-week program? So the 3-week program being referred to here is our 3-week shock challenge program. Now this program is available on bigbenches.com. If you go to our articles page, it's the first article, most recent one to pop up, and I detailed 3 weeks of bench pressing. What I want you to do to really break a plateau, transition between meets, and or just really spark new progress. All right, it's just 3 weeks long. Pretty much encompasses a deload, a week of much higher volume, and then a week of really practicing singles and dialing in for a max test. And the idea is that you could essentially have your max increase just in that 3-week period by what we're doing in the training. So that's available on bigbench.com. You go to our articles page. This is the 3-week program he is referring to. He's asking about what accessories for the shoulders would I recommend adding in. Now, for really the 3-week program is geared towards raw lifters. So if you're a raw lifter, I tend to do more shoulder work with our raw lifters. And what accessories I do recommend, if you have a weak overhead press, then I would definitely have overhead press in there as a secondary movement after the bench day. Okay, if not both days of the week, I would have overhead pressing in some capacity if you're not very strong in the overhead press. Now, if you have a decent overhead press, I would look to do more of like shoulder stabilization drills, spider wall walk, a push-up position hold, what I call the big bend holds, where I actually get under a band and then stabilize it. I would look to do a lot more of that stuff on this program. But again, if your overhead press is weak, I think you see an enormous benefit from getting that additional overhead press work in. Okay, so I hope that answers that. Again, everyone that wants to check that out, the 3-week program that is available on bigbench.com in the articles. It is somewhat of a challenge. It's not time sensitive. You can do it whenever you feel fit, whenever your next program ends. It's a nice way to kind of bridge programs or break new progress, break a plateau. So definitely check that out. How often to train bench press? Okay, how often, how many days a week should you train your bench? Now, for a full power lifter, meaning you also compete in the squat and the deadlift, then usually twice a week is plenty. That would suffice. Okay, and that's typically what we'll do with our full power athletes. We'll have them bench twice a week. Now, if you're a bench only lifter and you're not paying as much focus and attention to the squat, the deadlift, I would definitely try to get some benching in 3 times a week, because you're going to have better recovery just because you're not taxing yourself as much with those other lifts. So our bench only athletes, I try to have them bench 3 times a week. Now that third day may not be some kind of crazy bench day. We might not even do like your traditional bench press. It might be a dumbbell bench press, so the implement changes a bit. It may be an earthquake bar, bamboo bar. Do some work with that. Something that's going to not really be too taxing, but still allow you to go through that motion and give us value somewhere. So that third day can really be manipulated However, but we're trying to kind of mimic a pressing variation, and we're trying to stimulate that press at least 3 times a week. Okay. In some circumstances, I mean, you could even bench press 4 times a week, depending on how you lay it out. You just got to think when you have more frequency like that, you're going to have to either take away a lot from the volume, which I probably wouldn't do, or I just take away from the intensity. So it just can't be that high a weight if you're doing a lot of benching, kind of like a Shako program. AI, sip of coffee for the oak trees in the world. I don't have my coffee, my friend. I don't know if you joined in. I got a sip of seltzer for you guys today, though. Had a lot of coffee already this morning. Sip of seltzer to the working man, all oak trees out there. Damn good. Damn good. What we got? Geopower. Coach is a raw, older, 50 plus lifter, intermed. Do you like planned in deloads? And is it okay that on those sessions I use variations of the big three? I will be doing this set back my big three gains practice. Thank you. High bar instead of a low bar. So I don't even think you have to necessarily change the movements as much. So with a deload, I do recommend planning in deload versus kind of auto regulating the deload. I do some of both with our lifters. Sometimes I will plan in a deload like this week. No matter how we're feeling, this is what the week is. We're deloading. And then some occasions I'll really rely on, is this athlete telling me they're very fatigued? Okay, let's try to plan a little bit less intensity or something. Um, so I kind of attack that from both ways. I do think that there's a lot of value in planning a deload, though, just because sometimes you're not going to be at that stage where you're saying, I'm ready for a deload yet. But, it's better to have one before you need one kind of scenario. So I'm definitely a fan of planning them in, especially at an older age, too. It's just a good practice to do, okay? So yeah, I'm a fan of that. I don't necessarily think you need to change the movements too much. Like you could do the same movements if you're regularly doing the big three. The variation is great because a variation is going to knock down the intensity. It's going to give a different stimulus. So it's a great way to approach it without having to sacrifice a ton of intensity. So I mean, a low bar to a high bar is not crazy different, but I don't know if you did like a slow eccentric SSB bar. That's very, very different than doing just your full speed back squat. This is a very, very different movement. You're probably not going to be able to handle as much weight. So doing tempo work, speed work, things like that are great to do on a deload. Um, or you could approach it if you just want more back squat work. You want to just practice it more. I would just do anywhere from 1 to 3 reps at a just very light intensity. And then you can still practice the movement, be specific about it. And this is what you probably do closer to a meet. But you can still get that practice in. If you're far out from meet, the variation's great because you can still really apply yourself, max effort. But have some kind of variation in there that you're just not going to be handling nearly as much weight. So you can really attack that from all different areas. So I hope that helps there, my friend. Thanks for tuning in to Bench Talk Live. Sip a seltzer to the working man. Damn good. Damn good. So we have a couple great podcasts coming out. If you haven't followed our podcast, The Benchcast, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, Google Podcasts, I've been getting into. Benchcast should be on all of those. Check them out. Great episodes are dropping this week. I got a couple things in store for you guys. I try to keep these podcasts anywhere from like 10 to 12 minutes. Is typically where they're running to. So they're short little podcasts, but we're talking more in depth on a topic, on some kind of bench topic. So it's a great listen. If you can tune in, I'm hoping I'm providing some really good info for you guys. But definitely, if you haven't given the podcast a listen yet, check us out on Spotify, again, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, you got it, GeoPower 50. I appreciate you tuning in. You're here every week, my friend. I appreciate that very much. All right, we'll take some more cues. I got a I got one more here I want to touch on. It came in from Instagram, and then really up to you guys whatever you want to ask. We do this every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. It would be a great appreciation of mine if you could simply just tell a friend, hey, this show going on every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to help with your bench, tune in, spread the word. Let someone know about our Instagram, YouTube. All that helps me tremendously. So please spread word, and that mean a lot to me. Coach tried to be in off season for a little while with training. What should I do about all the urges to throw a shirt or a brief on? This is actually a rather normal comment question from Steve Wasick, everyone. Appreciate tuning in, Stevie. Um, so you gotta know where you're at in your training. If you don't have a meet coming up anytime soon, you're really going to get that success in building that foundational strength, working in some of those movements that you wouldn't necessarily have in so close to a meet. A lot of your single leg movements, things like that. So you got to know where you're at with your goals. This is something that I find to be pretty tricky myself, because everyone's at a different time period. So when had a meet and I had to wait, and I knew the things I had to be doing, but I would see everyone else peaking for meets, hitting this heavy weights, looks like they're having a ton of fun. Um, it's a challenging thing mentally, but you have to be real strong willed in what you're trying to achieve. Understand the process of what you're trying to achieve in the moment. Because I think this is something that especially many people that train in groups struggle with, because not necessarily the whole group is going to be preparing for the same event. Therefore, they're not doing the same things. So it really just again it comes back to having to have that strong engagement, knowing what you need to do in order to prepare yourself for whatever your end goal is. So, yeah, it's hopefully answer Shiny Dome. Yeah, guys, I'm actually looking to chop this. I was seeing some pics. This is how I might look right here, and this is all gonna grow back out again. So I might cut this little thing. Yeah, do you have strength standards for the bench? I mean, everyone it's all relative. I'm not more impressed with one versus the other, but I like to think we have high bench standards. Wilson, thanks, Coach. We appreciate all your videos, info, and help. I appreciate you, Wilson. AI, when's your next goals? So I actually have a meet coming up in I guess like 3 weeks now. It's in Texas. If you haven't heard about it, it's the Tiny Meeker's throwing his big old bench meet. It's really a push pull open invite meet, but he has a select portion of that meet that is bench press only. He invited everyone who's benched 1,000 pounds out to it. We're talking about guys like Ryan Kennelly, Tiny Meeker himself is supposed to be doing this meet. Scott Mendelson, Jimmy Cobb, Rich Putnam, Bill Gillespie. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's about maybe 10 lifters, I'd say, in that. Tony Carlino. I don't want to forget anyone, but Blaine Sumner, I don't think he's doing it, though. But, all these guys that have benched 1,000 are coming out to it. I think he has like a 10 grand prize for whoever benches the most gets 10 grand. I think if you do 1,000, you get $1,000 right there. So, big incentive for these guys to come out and have this big bench off. So I just wanted to see that. I was like, I'm not going to miss this. So I was going to go down there regardless, but then I figured it would be a great opportunity and I could sign up myself. I am trying to pursue the single ply world record at 220. So I'm cutting down weight. I'm going to take my shot at that. At least it'll be my first single ply bench in a long time. Technically, my single ply PR is 510 right now. Because last time I did a single ply bench was 510. So, it's going to be a huge monster PR either way to advance my single ply lifting. Definitely, hopefully, end up at least top 5 if I don't end up cracking that number one slot from Greg Powell this time through. But I'm excited about it. It was a great opportunity too to meet up with a lot of our athletes who I coach down south and out west, kind of getting together for this event. So we got about 3 or 4 guys um, actually made through training and signed up and are going to be in this meet. So I'm excited to meet up with all of them. It's going to be a great time, but that's kind of next on the agenda. And then I guess I'll be doing one in May, and that, depending how this goes, it would be either single ply or multiply. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll take it step by step there. All right, guys. One more question that I want to touch on before we end out. How often should I practice in my bench shirt? So this one really comes down to, I guess, how much practice do you need in your bench shirt, and then what's your recovery like? This is going to be easier for someone who is bench only because you're not taxing yourself to as a high degree with the squat and the deadlift. All right, so when you are training full power, this can be pretty difficult to be in the shirt like on a regular basis. It's a pretty difficult thing to do. You don't see a ton of people doing that. You do see some people at very high levels too doing that on a weekly basis. Um, but it's definitely a tremendously difficult thing to do regularly when you're training full power. If you're training full power, I'd say usually at least twice a month is a good place to be. I wouldn't go less than that because I definitely think you're going to need the practice, because being in the shirt, even taking a week off, it's really tough to build on things technically. Like, it's very easy. It's much more of a technical precision practice. It's like your golf swing or something, right? If you just all of a sudden aren't practicing regularly, it's very easy to get out of whack with something. So the more you can do it, obviously, the better. So if you could get to a place where you can bench in your shirt on a weekly basis, which is harder to do with a poly shirt, probably a lot easier to do with a band shirt. That's ideal. Okay, not everyone can get to that point though. Some people are going to start getting some elbow discomfort, forearm pain, just overall fatigue. They have to dial that back a bit. So I mean, it really depends on the person, their recovery levels, what else they're doing in their training. And then how much practice do you really need? Like, are you a total beginner learning this stuff? Or are you pretty advanced? Like, can you afford to take that week off here and there? Yeah, so a lot goes into that, but I wouldn't go less than twice a month for sure. I wouldn't just jump in it once a month. If you seriously want to try to progress it and make some enhancements to your technique. I would shoot to try to, on the conservative end, at least get 3 sessions per month in the shirt, and then you can use that 4th week as a deload. And that's typically what I'll do with our full power athletes. We'll have a 3-week progression, and then we'll deload by utilizing a RAM or something like that. And that's typically where I'll start with them. If it's a bench only athlete, I'm going to try to get them in the shirt every week until they tell me that they're starting to feel fatigued, they're beat up. And then we'll deload them. But that's how that kind of shakes out. But that's a good question there. All right, guys, take a few questions. Otherwise, I'm popping out here. We're actually going to record a couple podcasts for you guys today. I'm talking about the podcast a little bit. Go to Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Search The Benchcast and give us a follow, give us a subscribe, check out the content we got there. I'm filming a couple things for you today. What else I got on my agenda today? I'm doing some coaching, definitely for our athletes, as always. And then I'm going to be putting up some content too for our Better Benching Academy, and that takes me into Better Benching Academy. A lot of additional content, all categorized, easy to absorb and to learn and to apply to your training inside the Better Benching Academy. You can go to bigbenches.com/academy. You'll see the little tab there. Check it out. You'll receive a discount off our store page and the website. All program templates are free inside the Better Benching Academy, including our brand new 8-week conjugate bench program. That's not even available in our store page yet. That program is only available right now in the Better Benching Academy. So if you want it, it's there. Sign up for the academy is less than $10 a month. So I think that's well worth it, worth its bang if you're going to plan on getting a program anyway. So everything's available for you there. Yeah, we got a bunch of great stuff. The training recaps leading up to this meet that I'm doing in Texas. I'm posting all the training that I'm doing up there so you can get some great ideas on what you can apply to your training. I try to talk through these recaps in ways that you guys will get knowledge by watching that too and seeing what I'm doing. So, yeah, a lot of great stuff there. Better Benching Academy, all about helping you increase your bench press. Check that out today. Right after this podcast, jump on over to the website, give that a look. Hope to see you on the inside there. But yep, that's what I got coming up for you. I appreciate everyone tuning in to the Bench Talk Live today. Every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, I try to do these, so hopefully you can join in next week. And yeah, just appreciate everyone popping in. And we'll take one more question. We got a buzzer beater here from Eric. Thoughts on the mental prep for a PR, please. So, I'll approach this from a couple different ways because I was literally just talking to some athletes about this. Um, Knowing how to auto regulate properly is such a huge thing, especially if you're doing a conjugate based type program where if I'm putting in, we're doing 5 rep max today for our athletes. And one thing I try to get them to understand is it doesn't have to be an all time PR. Okay, just because I write it in as like 5 rep max, like work up to a top set of 5 is really what that means, and that's traditionally what you're trying to do with a conjugate style program. It doesn't always have to be just about all time PRs. It's not like every week you're going to be hitting all time PRs on all your lifts. It's not going to happen like that. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. Being okay mentally with not necessarily being at an all time PR is very, very important. Okay, because there are some athletes where they just really can't handle that mental aspect of it. I have them doing a different style of programming that just suits them better. Okay, some kind of a progression or something like a linear progression. They're doing different objectives each block, but the conjugate style program, especially, you need to be mentally strong with being okay with not having to hit all-time PRs all the time. As you get closer to the meet, yeah, there is a performance value there. You need to hit certain numbers leading into a meet. Obviously, that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. But especially early on in the training program, you got to be okay with just taking what you can get for the day. And if that's not an all-time PR, then so be it. It is what you got for the day. You still got effective training in. And at the end of the day, it's not putting your best numbers on the gym floor, it's putting your best numbers on the platform. All right, so it's really just we're at the end of the day, we're training in the gym. We're training to get stronger and apply that to the platform. So you should never be hitting really all your best lifts in the gym. If that's happening, that's an issue in my eyes. Really, all my lifts, all my PR lifts have always been on the platform. All right. That's how you prepare and peak properly going into a meet. Get yourself to a place where you are ready to achieve these lifts. You've done the training, you've built the strength, you just got to rest up and put it together. Okay, that's always where you should be hitting your best lifts. So I'll just say that. I just carried on a little rant about that. Now, how do you mentally prepare in the moment? I guess that'll be very different for each person, depending on your personality. Some people do like to go through the process of just getting completely amped up. Um, you know, I'm thinking nose torque, slamming your head on the bar to the point you're bleeding, crazy thoughts going through your head. Some people start crying. I don't know what the hell they're all thinking about, but some people can get riled up like that, and that's how they mentally prepare. Others are very conservative. I would put myself on that very conservative scale to the point where, for me, I during the course of a meet, when I'm leading up to a big PR, I really just try to be super relaxed. I like to joke with people. I like to have, just carry on normal conversation, have some fun at the event. When I am getting ready, like if I'm 4 out, I'm starting to chalk up and do wrist wraps, something like that. I do like to. I don't. I try to cut out all the chit chat at that point, and I just like to simply focus. I don't really like to think about anything. I just like to. I know what to do. I practice it in training in terms of what I want to achieve, the things I need to kind of keep in mind when I'm going through the motions. But all the work's been done. It's really just I try to void my mind and I don't really try to think about anything in particular. I have that attitude, hey, it's go time. So that's how I approach things. Now, again, everyone's gonna be a little bit different. Everyone's gonna have their little bit of a different approach to it, but um, yeah, mentally, I'd say for most people, you don't want to think too much. You don't want to have to think about what you're doing technique wise. When I cue lifters after a certain lift at a meet, it's very different than how I'd cue them throughout training. Throughout training, we want to work on these technical aspects. In a meet, I don't want someone thinking. So usually it's just words of encouragement. And if there was something that they did technically wrong, I will address that with them in a way that won't get them to overthink. So that's just kind of the process of coaching. When it's game day like that, is every athlete's going to be a little bit different. If I know I'm working with someone who really needs the technical feedback to succeed, I will give that to them. If there's someone who is going to start thinking way too much, and that's probably what happened in the first place, I'm just probably going to give them simple words of encouragement, kind of get them out of their own head. So a lot of different ways to approach that, but that's a great question, my friend. We can do a whole podcast on that. Zach, real quick, how accurate are 1 rep max calculators? They're pretty accurate. They're pretty decent. More accurate when you're within a smaller rep range, not doing like 8 rep max. All right, guys, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Sip a seltzer to the working man. Check out, got some ice cubes. Check out Better Benching Academy, bigbenchers.com. Hope to see y'all there. Talk to y'all next time.